think that which is fine. There's a reliance on religion to, to cope, which is a coping skill, which is nothing wrong with that. But
Mhm.
then there's also the over reliance and that thinking that everything will work out, but we're also going to dismiss therapy and other mental health treatments because I have religion. And
Yeah.
I think that's where there's a lot of trauma that comes in because children actually really need the help and they're being denied the help because they're just saying we're going to pray about it.
Mm.
And then certain things, certain illnesses, certain concerns might continue and worsen because of the lack of help, the lack of resources.
In your
Yeah.
view, where is the balance? Where is the line between sort of like what is beneficial as far as preying on it and then actually seeking professional help? I don't know. It's a hard. I don't know that I fully understand my own question, but I think that it's
No,
hard.
I
No, go
absolutely
ahead.
get
Go ahead.
I absolutely get your question because it comes up a lot. But I can give an example
Sure.
because thankfully I got to work when I was working in the schools. I got to work with amazing parents, and I'll never forget this one parent that I was working with, and she was very religious. And the psychologist before him was just like, she's only going to pray about it. She's not going to do anything about his diagnosis because he had autism.
Mm,
And she was like, she won't do it because when it was assigned to me, I was just like, well, I'm going to say that look, God created your children, your child. He created me to help your child. You are the expert on your child,
mm.
and God is the expert on all of us. But He also created me to help your child get through this. So yes, we can pray about it to help, with relief, but we also have to take action.
There
So
are a few women I've interviewed on the show that have said like that stereotype and that pressure is what put me in this field because I need to end that. I need
yeah.
Black women in particular to know that we do not always have to be strong, that, I don't want to keep putting words in their mouth. And
Mhm.
I'll link the episodes for anyone who wants to go back and listen. But how do you feel about that? I mean, is that something that you saw in that situation, beyond that situation? Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts as that
I
came to mind
I've
as I was
seen it
talking?
I've seen it when I was growing up, my dissertation, and even with the clients that I have now, because I do treat Black women. And I'm working so hard to break that mindset because, and I explained this to one of my clients who was like a light bulb. I
Mm,
said, can you imagine what this is doing to your son? Your son is seeing a Black woman work hard and smile through it all, and you're not being vulnerable. So when he goes to date a woman, that is the expectation
yeah.
that you have to work and put a smile on. And what's so interesting is as I was talking to my husband, he was actually like, "Oh my God, you're right." Like sometimes I would look at because I am very all about self-care. And we had such an honest conversation where he was just like, sometimes I would look at you, lay on the couch and be like, why isn't she doing anything? And we had that vulnerable moment where he was like, it's because I saw my mom come home from work, pick up the slack, do all these things pick up the slack of his father. And he was just like, I can't believe that I kind of put that on you. And
Mhm.
I was just like, yeah, like this is happening to Black women in relationships. It's very hard to date because men have this idea in their heads that's just like, well, you shouldn't be complaining because
Yeah.
my mother did this and she was a single mom and she had 3 kids. So you can do this too.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us to show up at work because we have to be strong Black women at work and then we have to be strong Black women at home. So we again leading to why depression and PTSD rates are so high for
Mhm.
women.
I sometimes wonder if there are actually more cases of ADHD, autism, fill in the blank, or is it that we are just more aware of it now?
I think it's a mix of both, but specifically after the pandemic, it's hard to tell. You would need like a really comprehensive psychological evaluation because the pandemic for a lot of kids they lost a year. Some kids
Yeah.
did not have internet, especially my kids did not have access to internet. So there'd be months or weeks that they would not log on, and then sometimes the internet was shaky, so they would log on like they'd probably have like 2 to 3 hours of a school day. So there was just like a year that or a year or 2 where kids just weren't really learning, and
Yeah.
on top of that, there was immense grief. People don't really talk about, like, most kids, and I think the number was, like, at least 8 million kids have either lost a caregiver or a parent to the
Oh,
pandemic,
yeah.
and not just parents, like, you could have also lost your grandmother, you could have
Right.
also lost your cousin, you could have also lost someone really close to you, your sibling, and a lot of kids did not process that. They didn't process the grief. So them not being able to attend might be like, I'm worried about my mom. Like my father, my grandfather passed away due to COVID, and they're in school. Like what's gonna happen? I don't know what's going on. Or when
Mm.
someone sneezes, they're like, "Don't get
Scared.
me sick because I don't wanna get my
Yeah.
parents sick." So there's just so many things, there's so many factors that we have to really assess before we say ADHD, especially after the pandemic.